Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the long range weather forecast discussion. And this is for the period February 19th to March 5th. Okay, so we're going to start here. We're going to go to the 19th to 20th. Now we see here we have a trough in the west, rigid in the east. But if you watch here what happens later on, a piece of the trough breaks out and moves into the east. But we still have a new trough that'll be moving in with region in between. So that'll be across the Intermountain West. Now, low pressure is forecast to develop in the front range, and we'll go look at that at the surface. And we'll go back here. Here's the low pressure system here developing, and then that'll lift northeastward to the Midwest and the Great Lakes by the end of the week. Here is Thursday, Friday. Then we go here. Now there'll be snow on the western side. There could be some severe weather here across the southeast as the low lifts northeast with the cold front. And also, the west will be impacted by atmospheric river event, and we'll look at that. We'll go look at that here. Okay, we'll go here. We'll look at the map. Okay, here. All right, and we'll put this into motion here. And here's the first system moving in. Then we have another one moving in here. So this will bring a lot of rain and precipitation to parts of the west. This will be heavy rain, probably like 3 to 5 inches of rain. This will even extend down into Southern California. And in the mountains, we were talking about feet of snow. Several feet, maybe up to 5 feet of snow in the Sierras. So we'll take a look at that. Here we go. This is the rainfall amounts here. First we'll look at. See, we have rainfall amounts approaching an inch. Then we go into Thursday, Friday. This is the last several days. Then the next system moves in. And then we have amounts over an inch here across Northern California. And now we'll look at the snowfall amounts. So here would be heavy snow. So in the mountains, so 1.50, this would be a couple of feet of snow here, maybe close to 1.5 feet. And you can see we have heavier snow here across Northern California. And then we go further east, then you can see, we go farther in the period, and then we'll see we have 3.2 inches of snow, 2.2, 5 inches. This is in 24 hours. And then it moves into Arizona in the southwest. Okay. Okay, later on, the current precipitation that's fallen across California will slowly decrease, and then it'll increase across the Ohio and the northeast, Ohio Valley in the northeast, and we'll go look at that. All right, so here, see we have the rain. It decreases, moves into the east, then brings some precipitation to the northeast. All right, and then colder weather moves in behind a cold front. Now, I don't know if you heard already, there's a chance of another possible storm along the East Coast. All right, it's still a lot up in the air. It depends on what happens. It's still like a week away. It'll be like Sunday into Monday. Okay, so now we'll go and look at the upper levels. So here we go. Here we have the system in the southwest moving in. Here it is right here. And then it'll move eastward. And see what happens here. We have the northern and the southern stream energy. Now, to get a significant storm here, as I always say, you have to have the southern stream energy move ahead of this, which it does. So then it goes in, then it starts to phase maybe a little bit, possibly, and then we have a storm here along the East Coast. So we'll look at that at the surface. So now we'll go to Friday. Here's the GFS. Friday, Saturday. Here comes the next system. Now the GFS, strongest, right? It's near the 40, 70 degree benchmark. Here is the European ensembles, or the European. I don't think it goes out that far. Oh, Saturday, Sunday. See, now it keeps it separate and it moves out. Then we'll look at the European ensembles. Further to the north, but it's more west. Then we have the other low taking over, which is close to the coast. And look where it's cold enough for snow, way inland. So this would be a rain event for the East Coast. This is the GFS AI. We'll look at the European AI. And it's weaker, but then it intensifies. And look where it's cold enough to snow, but not much precipitation, all the way down here to the southeast. We'll keep an eye on that as we go through the period. All right, we're going to look at the period now for February 24th to the 28th. 24th to 28th. And what we have here, we go to the end of the month. The month here, a ridge across, we have a ridge over the Eastern Pacific here, trough over here, and then we have a trough in between. We have a ridge here and a trough over the northeast. We look at the various models, trough here, ridge here. We look at the various models here, flatter flow. The ensembles have a flatter flow, except for maybe the GFS. Let me see, I thought I saw something. Yeah, so Europeans, the ensembles have a flatter flow. So for this forecast period, I am calling for above normal temperatures here with the numbers up to 6 degrees above normal here in the orange, below normal temperatures here with the numbers up to 4 degrees below normal. For precipitation, I am calling for above normal precipitation here, and for this region, probability of occurrence is up to 40% across this area here. Below normal precipitation for this region, probability of occurrence is 35%. Looking ahead for March 1st to the 5th, as we go into meteorological spring and meteorological winter ends, we have more of a flatter flow across the country. You see here. Although some models are showing a tendency of a troughing, of a little bit of a trough here across the northeast, a little bit, not much. Overall zone of flow. So for this forecast period, I am calling for above normal temperatures here with the numbers of up to 6 degrees above normal, and for precipitation, calling for above normal precipitation here. And for this region, probability again is up to 40% across the northwest. Below normal precipitation here, and for this region, probability of occurrence is 35%. I'm not so sure here. That's why I gave a low probability, is because we still might have some precipitation occurring. Now, one thing I want to look at here, we're going to look at is the polar vortex. We're going to talk about the polar vortex here. Okay. Now we're going to look at all the way up to the stratosphere, and we're going to see what is going on.
You're pretty happy. Oh, yeah. I asked Denise out on a date, and she said yes.
Oh, that's great. But don't smile like that in front of
We'll
him.
wait for this to load a little bit.
I'm excited. I haven't been on a date in a long time.
Back when I was dating, I'd always wear a new pair of underwear, just in case.
It's also been a long time since I bought new underwear.
Now, I don't think anything's going to happen here, like in the short term, whatever, but as we get later on in the period, in the forecast period, we're going to look at here. Now, what you're looking at is it's an interesting setup here, and we have the GFS 10 millibar temperature and winds analysis forecast valid for this time frame, and the 10 millibar is looking deep into the stratosphere right around the level where the polar vortex lives. So the temperature pattern shows a strong warming anomaly over Canada. Now you get Canadian warming, what they call, and the map shows a large warm region, the orange and the red shades, center over central and eastern Canada at the 10 millibar warm colors indicates stratospheric warming, not the surface warming. And this is a major displacement of the stratospheric polar vortex. And the warming is pushing the coldest stratospheric air, the colder colors, southwards towards the US and Mexico. And this is characteristics of a sudden stratospheric warming type pattern, or at least a strong wave one event. Okay, now the geo height potentials, this would be 3070, 3083, show a shape of the 10 millibar pressure surface. And what they reveal is the vortex is elongated and stretched, not circular, so that means it's weak. And the highest heights, a ridge over Canada, consists with warming. The lowest heights, the vortex core, are shoved southeast. And this is a classic sign of a wave forcing from the stratosphere, pushing the vortex off the pole, so it's being displaced. And the jet stream shows vortex displacement. The wind barbs show the stratospheric jet wrapping around the vortex. And the strongest winds are now larger, centered over the pole. And the jet is tilted asymmetric, another sign of disruption vortex. Now, the exact shift, the exact placement may shift, but the overall pattern of warming and displacements is usually robust at a lead time. And what it is, a significant disruption of the polar vortex with a major warming over Canada, which we have, displacement polar vortex pushed southward, a weakening elongated circulation, and a strong wave one forcing. This is the kind of pattern that can lead to downstream stratospheric impacts, high latitude blocking, cold outbreaks in the mid latitudes depending on coupling. But the map is strictly showing the stratospheric state, not the surface outcomes. And we're going to look at thing. Okay, so like, even though we're looking at this now, even though this week is going to be mild and parts of the east may touch 50 degrees or more with rain, that doesn't actually mean that whether the cold shots are still on the table. Okay, so why it would be mild is because the temporary warming is completely normal, even in cold leading patterns. It usually warms up before it gets cold, which could happen. Winter is not over yet. So the Pacific jet extension is flooding the U.S. with mild air, so the Pacific flow of air, that's why it got so warm. And the Arctic air sources are temporarily cut off, and the AO is trending positive, which relaxes the high latitude blocking. And then you have the mild stretch. And like I said, this doesn't mean that winter is over, because a mild week in February doesn't cancel large-scale signals. The bigger drivers still matter. The stratospheric is still disturbed. And the 10 millibar map right here shows a displacement, weakening polar vortex. When it happens, cold air can still be released in lobes, even after a warm spell. Disturbed polar vortex, constant cold. Disturbed vortex, intermittent cold shots. The pattern after a warm spell often reloads. Historically, after Pacific-driven warm air, the East often sees a return to seasonal or below normal temperatures, 1 or 2 late season cold shots, increase in storm potential if the subtropical jet stays active. This is especially true in late February. And guidance often underestimates late season cold. Models trend towards the east too aggressively in the long-term runs, then corrects colder as the event gets closer. And most likely it'll get cold again, but not brutally cold. Based on the pattern, expect another cool down after the mild stretch. It may be a deep Arctic outbreak, but the return to near to slightly below normal temperatures is very possible. A late February storm threat is still on the table if the cold air is correctly with the southern jet. And what is very unlikely at this time, is the least important, is the repeat of the extreme cold that we experienced earlier this winter. And we will get to 50 plus degrees of rain this week, but winter possibly isn't done. It probably isn't done, I should say. And a reload of colder air is still favored before February ends, though not necessarily as severe as the outbreaks that we had. And with the ensemble showing for February 20th to 29, whether the areas specifically have snow chances left, with NOAA, with the NAO and the PNA trending towards the end of the month. Short temps, it's possible, but not likely that the window is shrinking for possible snow. Late February and early March, the odds for a single 6-inch snowfall drops compared to January, but they don't go to zero. Nor'easters can still deliver a big one if the track and cold air line up. Seasonal outlooks for 2025-26 favored warmer than normal temperatures along much of the East Coast, which generally recludes the frequency of big storm snow events, even if the individual storms can overperform. Looking at this. So to be honest, like 6-inch snowfall is still on the table, but likely requires a well-timed coastal storm, which we could get late in the weekend, early next week. A good supply of cold air and a favorable track offshore, that is 40 degrees north, 7 degrees west. A low to modest probability, but not zero. But you need a clean setup to get this at this time of year. All right, so we're going to keep an eye on the current storm conditions as we get closer to the end of the week. So that is it for tonight, and that is the long-range weather forecast discussion for February 19th to March 5th. Thanks for coming to Jim Munley's World of Weather, and have a good day.